Hey guys, welcome back to another week of Mortgage Matters in Minutes. I'm your host, Brent Rasmussen, and you are on Channel of Mortgage Specialists here getting some education today. And one blog that we've written quite a few years back is 6 common issues that can delay a closing. And while there's more than just 6, we like to just kind of give you a few different ideas of what you possibly can think about planning ahead for as either a buyer or a seller or a realtor to help that transaction get to closing on time and with the least amount of stress as possible. And that's always our goal here at Mortgage Specialists, is to make the process as easy as we can for the buyer and for the seller, because we've been through the transactions many times. If we've been through it many times, we kind of know where the hiccups can lie. Sometimes different situations come up that we can't predict or plan for. That's always going to happen. But the more that we can think ahead and plan ahead for all these different hundreds of things that can occur, the better it is. So what I can share with you first of all is that all lenders that I know of, and I know hundreds and hundreds of them, all want the transaction to close on time. We really do. There's no reason why we're not proactive, and I hear stories often that people say, well, they don't really care that I close on time. The issue sometimes comes out to be is that we as lenders don't get to pick the date. The date gets negotiated in the contract, and sometimes it's too short of a time frame to make everything happen. There's lots of legalities that need to occur, and they're not controlled by us. They're controlled by underwriting rules, state law, federal law. And as time goes on, more and more legalities are added to the transaction to make sure everyone is protected. And we have to make sure we meet all those. So just because someone says, well, this just makes common sense to do it this way, or it just makes sense that I am easily qualifiable, I can say, yes, I understand that, but the laws and the rules don't allow me just to grant you a loan based on what we feel. We have to actually do the loan based upon the guidelines and the rules and the laws that actually exist. So we're going to go through a couple of those items that sometimes can come up throughout the process. And the first one is errors in documents. And we probably see this the most out of anything. Whether your paycheck wasn't cut properly, whether there was a deposit or withdrawal in your bank statement that wasn't really yours and that was some kind of error, or maybe you received documentation that doesn't really support what it is that you're showing, such as we see people send us bank statements that might not have their name on them, or they give us a pay stub that might be a screen print. It doesn't have who their employer is, or doesn't have the year-to-date earnings. So what I can share with you is that underwriting is always looking for 2 formats generally of something to make sure it matches. And if it doesn't have a full account number or full name or the full answer, they're not going to allow us to use it. And I know sometimes in the technology world that we live in, it's easy to go grab a screenshot or an internet printout or some kind of electronic format. But if it doesn't have all the information to answer the question, then generally it can't be used. So the more organized you are to get access to your documents, the easier it is that underwriting is going to sign off and approve that. And I can tell you, the more experienced a loan officer is on what underwriters want, the easier it's going to be on you as well too. So the second topic or issue that comes up is money issues. Whether you changed a job recently, whether you moved around large sums of money, maybe we can't verify some bit of documentation throughout the process, or maybe you took on new debt. All those money issues can definitely happen throughout the process. I know people like to move their money into one joint account, so that way that you can bring in one check to closing. But moving around money, anytime that happens, underwriting wants to verify truly where did that come from. Did it come from this account, or did it come from cash, or did it come from someone else? And that's really what underwriting is looking for, is because there are so many people to defraud the system out there. They're worried about the 1% or 2% of the world that's trying to defraud and gain a mortgage for free, that it harms the 98% of the world that are doing things right and correctly. And again, we don't like it as just as much as you don't like it, but that's unfortunately what we have to live with in this day and age of technology and laws and rules that exist. The third topic that we want to talk about is missing loan documentation or missing loan documents, meaning a lot of times when you get pre-approved with different lenders, they might not ask for all pieces of paper and all documentation, or they might only ask for a pay stub or only a bank statement. But throughout the process, you do have to provide everything, such as driver's license, such as your insurance, such as all of your bank statements over 2 months and all the pages of the bank statements. So what you submit maybe to a pre-approval might work for the pre-approval, but it might not work for getting the loan approved. And the more you can respond back to your lender in the quickest foundation possible, the better it is for you, because as soon as the lender is able to review and the underwriter is to see the documents and what we call sign off on them, approve them, then you don't have to go back and actually dig up items again. I see so many people say, well, I'll get to that later, and I'll get to that later. And because of all these rules and regulations, generally we like to see everything to underwriting no later than 2 weeks before closing. And some people say, well, hey, I'm not closing for 2 more weeks. I have time to turn this in. But there's a lot of things that need to happen at the end of the process just before closing. And if you don't get in all the specific loan documents in time, then you're not closing on time. And I can tell you from my experience and over 20 years of doing this, the reasons why we don't close on time, I would say majority of the time, is because the borrower did not provide the documentation that was needed, or they wanted to wait because they were busy until later in the process, which then obviously underwriters review something that was submitted and ask another question, and that continually could delay the finishing of that loan as well. Title liens. Title liens are not something that we always can predict, but if we have a situation that we know there's something going on, we a lot of times ask the realtors to go look for a title search before they put the house for sale to make sure there's no issues with the buyers or sellers. But sometimes an old child support or an old lien will show up that's been paid and taken care of, but for some reason the documentation wasn't taken care of correctly at the courthouse or through an attorney or something of that nature, and we have to go get lien releases. And those take time. Those don't just happen instantaneously. All of these different situations take extra time that's needed to finish up the loan. Last minute requests. We hate last minute requests, not asking the borrower for last minute items, but when we turn in stuff last minute, underwriters ask for stuff last minute. They think, what are they trying to hide by turning in things late? And that's not always the case. But last minute items or changes that occur can affect the loan transaction, where all of a sudden now we want to put more or less down. We want to do something different with their jobs and switching jobs halfway through the process. Any kind of last minute change obviously can be a major hiccup in closing on time, because we have to go through the formality of getting those things approved by the rules that exist. Item number 6 of the issues that we're talking about today is items that come up during the final walkthrough. And I can say through the years, we've seen all kinds of crazy things happen. But generally, when you walk through a property and you know at the beginning, maybe there's a lot of stuff there, people might not be as organized of cleaning items up. Generally, at the end of the process, it's a day or two before closing and they might not still be moved out. So what I suggest in this case is being flexible in your closing. Obviously, you want to know exactly when you're moving in, because you might be vacating your apartment or another home or some other place that you live. But I can share with you that while we all strive to close on time, there are going to be situations that are completely out of your control that you're not going to be able to close exactly on that time that you had planned for. And I know the world isn't perfect and everything doesn't go your way, but the more you can be flexible and anticipate that there could be a problem and that delayed closing could happen, I can tell you the less stressful it is in the end of the process when you're at closing. And if something does come up, like the seller doesn't get completely moved out in time just because they didn't do what they say that they were going to do, that obviously affects you and it affects us, and it affects maybe loan documents being changed and contracts and addendums being drawn up and underwriting rules and legality rules that need to happen. So there's a lot of things that are involved in a real estate transaction. When you're working with experts, we try and work to avoid as many of those as we possibly can by always thinking ahead. Real estate agents the same ways, realtors, title companies, appraisers, everybody in the process is trying to do their best to think ahead of any problem, because we understand the more smooth we can make this transaction, the better it is for you, the consumer, at the end of the day. So today we just chatted about a few some issues that we see probably more regularly come up. There's many different things that can happen along the way that people can try to plan for, but at some point in time, I think the moral of the story is, while in the purchase agreement there is a specific date that you have closing set for, in your mind, understand that there could be something that comes up that changes and deviates that, and have as much flexibility as you can for yourself and your stress level, because it is a stressful time when you're trying to move into two different places and leave another property or apartment or home as well too. So I hope you learned a few things today. We're always here to help answer any questions via phone call at 402-991-5153, or you can always reach us on our website at mtg-specialists.com, where we have many blogs and many information for you to understand real estate, to understand lending, and the process much better for yourself. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you very much soon, and hopefully see you next week, same time, same place. Thanks. Mortgage Specialists. Driven, trusted, reliable.